Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers with Geekazine and How to Record Podcasts. We're here with the Downtown Podcast Group, and they just got done doing their show. And it's amazing because, you know, most podcasters podcast from a closet with one microphone and a computer, and that's it. You guys take up a whole room, you bring your friends over, you bring people you don't even know over, and just have a good time with it. I mean, it's a total mess over here right now. I hate to have the aftermath. So I'm going to pass the mic down because I don't have as fancy of a setup as you do. So why don't you tell me each of your names?
Okay, so my name is Dylan Jorgensen, and I am the host.
My name is Susan Hinton, and I am the co-host.
I am Paweł Szymczkowski, and I do some camera work and crowd engagement.
I was wondering when you come up with the title.
And then the one running the Swiffer Sweeper right now?
That's Jackie. She's our producer. She does all the real work. The behind the camera work, which is 90% of it.
She didn't want to be on the camera because my show's not important, I suppose. So no, this is really cool because you guys have a bunch of DSLR cameras. They have you have sliders and jibs and lights and everything like that, and you make it into a real production. And which the best part is about Las Vegas, the downtown Las Vegas project, is you're promoting community, and by doing this, you promote that community. So was that the plan all along, or?
No, yeah. So it definitely wasn't the plan, and everything about the way this show has grown is because the community kept volunteering more and more pieces. So it started as just me and a couple people trying to aggregate the news for ourselves and then trying to share it with like email list, and then we decided to record it audio, and then a few people in the community who listened to it were like, hey, let's bring some video cameras up, and then 1 camera, 2 camera, 3 cameras, then their friends were just in the audience, so we got them some chairs, but it was very, very gradual. So we do 1 episode every week, 53 episodes was this 53rd episode tonight, and throughout that time it's been really like incremental in how it grew.
Okay. Is it like Joe's camera and Fred's camera or anything like that?
Not anymore. So we also have sponsors that pay for the beer, and there's a little bit of extra money there. So we've slowly bought the equipment. So it was always rented, and then it was like some Craigslist purchases. But yeah, we do own it now. But it's definitely grown, and there's really not that much equipment. In reality, this was already this is our living room table that we're sitting at. This was printed at the Sin Shop. It was a gift from these guys, and then the cameras, they are like $400 or $500. But we paid for that with the sponsors incrementally as it came in. So,
well, now you guys bring in the crowd, and the first thing, of course, you said was, and this is kind of a bouncy room, and the first thing you said is, just be yourselves and talk and stuff. No, it wasn't like turn off your cell phones now and stay quiet and drink your drinks and be happy. You bring a lot of fun into it as you're talking with the guests. Has that become a problem in creating any type of a show?
Sometimes we do have a little bit of trouble getting people to be quiet, but we love the fact that everyone's having fun, and so it's really hard for us to say, like, just time to shut up now. We find that Paweł and...
Yeah, show me your horn. You get the horn?
Oh, I have a...
So he has a way of controlling the crowd, which is awesome. He's coming over now.
Sometimes they are too loud.
I have a red vuvuzela, and I've done it a couple times on my show. But go ahead and give us the call of the wild.
Point the mic to it, yeah.
Okay.
And that usually serves to get their attention a little bit. There you go.
There you go. And some people say Ricola and go from there. So
Those clowns.
There's always resources.
always retorted. Yeah. So speaking of cameras, now you don't. A lot of people will take a camera and hook it up to like a TriCaster or a device that will have you'll basically be mixing it there. But you don't do that. You do all post mix. First of all, how does the camera work? Is it what you guys want to see, or is it something that you want to see improve on? And then second of all, is it just something that's planned in the work to have a device that'll actually end up recording just one shot and you?
Well, since I don't do any of the editing, and that's kind of like all on Dylan's head to do, like he spends his weekend basically editing the podcast every weekend, and I think that's amazing. But as far as the camera rolls themselves, he has them really well defined. I mean, I was a fan of the podcast before I joined the podcast crew. probably around episode 25 or something like that. And they were just short on a camera person, and like they'd seen my face around, and I was like, oh, do you want to take a camera? I was like, okay. And like the roles were already well defined. He has the red, green, and blue cameras and the yellow camera, and they all have kind of like specific roles. One of them focuses on the guest on the left side of the table, one on the right, and roaming crowd cam, and the action cam that's in the center that always like slides back and forth on the rail and is always moving. So we have like a little bit of dynamism added to the content. But I think it's all on Dylan, right? He works really well with the editing, and he always manages to, no matter like if we maybe slip on the camera work at some point, he always makes the show look really good. I think there's been a few episodes where like, well, that was a really awkward moment. And then he's always saved it in post editing, so he's the wizard behind it. It's not the camera work, but we definitely have enough footage to make it happen. No, you make it awesome.
So how long? So I got my workflow down to about 2 or 3 hours, I think. I mean, the whole process is kind of long, but it's setting up for the show. It's like trying to find funny things, but really once I get the footage, I'm using Final Cut 10. Because I didn't know any video editor except that one. It just was the newest one. So I'm able to take the cameras and sync it using audio. So I kind of watch the show just with 4 screens, and I just chop, kind of the way they would with the TriCaster. So it's not terribly complicated. And I actually really like watching the film. It's enjoyable for me to cut it, because I think that one of the goals I have for myself is to be a good public speaker. Like as a startup, I want to be able to like communicate big ideas in great little ways, and it's painful and fascinating to watch yourself on camera, but it really, I think, helps me tune how I present and how I speak with people. So I find it part of a passion that I have, so I don't mind one bit the 2 or 3 hours I put in each week, but that's about what it takes.
So you're on episode 53, and what are the plans to stay here at the in the suite? Or are you guys gonna move on, or what?
Oh, touchy subject. We don't know. Yeah, I don't think anyone here's got the answer exactly. So the brand new Inspire Theater in downtown Las Vegas is a beautiful place. We have some options to maybe be there. Whether that's the right fit for the audience is kind of tough. Like we like to interact and joke with them. Would we lose some of that kind of magic? And especially as the guests get bigger, bringing them in here is like more and more fun. So I don't think I actually need a bigger venue for bigger guests. I think it works better that we keep the venue small. Okay. So we'll see, but we're always open to
always open. Oh yeah. How hard? Well, first of all, who's the biggest guest you had, and how hard is it to actually get guests?
I was expecting you to.
It's easy to answer.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say it's Flava Flav, because that just keeps getting YouTube views. I think like the week that it was published, it got like 20,000 views and just keeps racking them up. I don't think anything has come close to that since then. But he was just on our show because he opened up a fried chicken restaurant in Las Vegas, and you know, he's a popular guy, so he's just gotten the views. He was a fun guest too, for sure.
Everybody loves chicken.
He definitely got more views than the Tupac impersonator, right? Yeah.
So how hard is it to actually get guests then?
This would be a good question for Jackie, but you know, we're lucky. I mean, we're extremely lucky. There's this podcast is in the middle of downtown Vegas, which is in the middle of the downtown project, which is revitalizing things and bringing people in. So in this building is about 60, 70 units that are used just for people who are visiting. And they're people that are amazing. They're people that are entrepreneurs and are really starting this whole community. So we got lucky. I'm sure Jackie works her butt off to make the guests come in. But on the other hand, we also are lucky to have an environment where we can actually reach out to them and they have time for us. So.
All right, we got to give Jackie a round of applause.
Yeah, Jackie. Woo, woo. Look at her just.
All right. Well, you know, we could go on forever and ever. This is a great start, and you know, like I said, a lot of podcasters, you know, they want to do something like this, but they're not sure. Since you're all entrepreneurs anyway, what's one good piece of advice for a podcaster? Because technically, a podcaster is an entrepreneur as well. Good piece of advice to get them to something that you're doing right now.
I think, so I came in around episode 19, 20 or something like that. So I wasn't here from the beginning, but I was kind of in the audience watching. And I think people who want to run something like this, the first thing they want to do is make everything perfect, right? And so they try and create something from scratch that just is out of the box amazing. And sometimes that fear of not being perfect stops them from starting. And sometimes also they'll give up because it didn't come out how they wanted to the first episode. And I remember Dylan is still very ashamed of the first episode and he doesn't want anyone to look at it. But that's how it all starts. And I think that as long as you just start and then work on the fact that we're constantly evolving, we just changed the format again recently, and that's what kind of built it up. You know, we got that rapport with the audience, we got different people coming through, and really our guests that we have on the show are the ones that shape like how successful it is. And so that's kind of my little 2 cents there.
Yeah, I kind of generally have to agree with that. Coming from a kind of like a hackerspace background, we have a maxim, which is JFDI, that stands for Just Fucking Do It. So it's like you can obsess forever, you can plan forever, you can, make the perfect podcast format, you can make sure you have all the right footage, but really it's just about like, just get started. Just get the footage down, worry about learning, editing later, get the first episode out, get some feedback, go on to the next one. That's it. Just, there's no recipe to it. I mean, we did the Sin Shop podcast too without knowing what we were doing, and figured it out as we went along. So I think that's the most important thing. Just start.
Gosh, I hate to just echo the room, but I mean, all the entrepreneurs that are in downtown Vegas, and even the ones that are all successful, they just have that same philosophy, which is like just get it out there. I don't think anyone from Tony Hsieh down realized like what they were getting into. I don't think anyone had a master plan for anything. So I think that's absolutely right. And and it's just, and luckily feedback, having an audience for anybody who's like doing their own podcast, like you should, even if you're in your like parents' basement, like bring them down and like get some people in front of you, because you'd be surprised how that instant feedback, not just like YouTube comments where you don't even know if you should trust them or not, but like when people are watching it and right afterwards they're like, oh, that part was really weird and this part was really funny, and the crowd, they respond with their energy level, and we can correct to that really quick, and as long as we're open to it, that's kind of the entrepreneurial changes that it goes through, is based on how they react.
And I'm in front of it, but I think just having a live audience really helps these guys. They really like feed off of the audience. When the audience is engaged, they're happy, they are excited, they're talking like excitedly and passionately about their subjects. It's probably not the right thing for everyone, but I know it helps you guys a lot to have like a pumped up audience.
Yeah,
So.
So like Dylan and I are super quiet before the show starts, and sometimes we'll go into separate rooms. We're just like, I'm just not feeling it. I need to conserve. And then as soon as the crowd comes, it's like this kind of extra energy comes out of us, because if people are excited to see us, then we're excited to kind of deliver some entertainment to them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, it's a good pressure. Yeah, and then even if having sponsors, especially early when it was easier to give up on the podcast, having some sponsors where I was like, oh, they gave me some money, even if it's like pretty much zero, but having them early on like forced me to say, well, I got to get this done. People have like some expectations on it, so yeah, putting those expectations is what the crowd does too. So.
I like the idea that you said bring your mom and dad. I mean, you can even bring down your mom and dad, because she go, that's a great podcast you got there. It's the greatest thing. Anyway, so we'll go down the line, because you guys are entrepreneurs yourselves. So Downtown Podcast is the website, right?
Yeah, downtownpodcast.tv.
.tv. So say that again, and then tell us what your regular startup is, and the website for that.
Okay, yeah. So the podcast is downtownpodcast.tv. It's also, if you go to the Downtown Project, the big $350 million plan that's rebuilding downtown Las Vegas, we're in the header there, so you can go there and learn about the project first, which is really sort of what we cover and like what we get our news from. And then the place we film, which is actually our living room, is a startup called Ticket Cake, so like a concert ticket and a birthday cake. Ticketcake.com. Yes, we just squish them together there and make that delicious URL. And so we compete with like Ticketmaster, Eventbrite, but with more of a business intelligence back end, and then more of a Zappos style customer service front end. And this is that's what we do full time. The Downtown Podcast is absolutely a side project. I get Thursdays to do this, and I have to work Sundays, so it's one of those things.
So I'm actually a wage slave, but I work for one of the coolest companies, which is Zappos. So I wouldn't call it being a wage slave at all. It's this website that sells shoes, but we also sell clothing. Yeah. More than just shoes.
Never heard of this.
So I'm a web developer during the day. Outside of it, outside of doing that in my personal time, I like to do a lot of education and volunteer events. So I do obviously this Downtown podcast, and I also run a bunch of events with Pawel, and together we're called Amalgamation of Cats. That's just like our bucket to put everything under. So, the Take It Back-a-thon we talked about on this episode, that's one of the events we run. So, and Pawel and I also help run a hackerspace sin shop downtown, which is aiming towards being a sustainable nonprofit. So that's probably the main company that I'm involved with. We have a maker fair that's in shops running, so yeah.
Yeah, pretty much ditto. I would coin the term non-entrepreneur, since you called us entrepreneurs. I don't have any lofty goals. I work at my job at Zappos, where I'm very happy. It's a fantastic place to work with really good people, and it's like a very fair workplace. It gives you like awesome latitudes to get things done that you want to do. And as a hobby, just lots of community events and just things that you do for the sheer joy of it rather than kind of for profit. So Take It Back-a-thon is part of that, and just Sin Shop and kind of the different community events we plan. That's what it's about. It's fun.
But just, even though Pawel does have a job that pays him a paycheck, like he was the one who suggested to Tony to build the User Lib, which is a little co-working space that like really was a catalyst for almost everything that happened down here. So there's like a lot of entrepreneurship inside the company he is an entrepreneur by all definitions of it, even if his paycheck's not all determined by it.
I'm a little bit sad now that User Lib is no longer. I got here and it's like, all right, let's go up to User Lib. Oh, it's gone. What? It closed yesterday. What? But there's a bigger space on the way, right?
Yeah, so Work in Progress is a co-working space that opened up on 6th Street and Bridger. There is right downstairs of this building, the Ogden, what is it called? Base Camp that's opening up. There's Innovation Center. There's a number of other spaces that kind of take the role of that, and we'll see like whether Homebrew develops into physical space or not in the future. But we do miss User Lib. It was really like the first. I like to call it. I said this on the show before, but I like to call it the first kind of like fortress on the frontier of like downtown Vegas tech. I mean, there was Vegas tech people, but it was just kind of like a gathering point where people kind of relate and get together and hang out. So it'll be missed. But
just to defend myself, Dylan, I cried because I picked out the furniture and the paint and everything, and so I was like, "What do you mean it's gone?" So yeah, it's wonderful that you heard about User Lib and that you were really excited to see it. I'm so sorry that it closed down before you had a chance.
Yeah, we got the slideshow on.
I did get to see it. I did get sitting there for a little bit when I was here last month. So one more thing, you guys pass around the fortune cookie, and they do what we called the elephant story, which basically was one person would then whisper to the next person what the fortune was, to whisper to the next person. We won't do that, but Dylan, why? Well, no. Okay, well let's do this. Okay.
The telephone game.
Telephone game. I'm under pressure now because I got to open up a bag of fortune cookie.
I don't think we've made it there without dropping it.
Now see, before I realized this is actually an American tradition rather than a Chinese tradition, although we don't know how to spell inside of these things. I don't get that whole thing. I used to eat half the cookie before I would read it. So.
No, you screwed it up. I bet you screwed it up.
I have a feeling it's going to say something about John Dylan.
It was really, really long, and I just did my best.
What does it say?
it was, I think, diligence and discipline will build you into a crayfish. That's what you said, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
So at least with 4 people it works.
No, it's diligence and modesty can raise your social status. So, you know.
Right? I didn't hear crayfish.
Crayfish. I think it's the accent that really threw her off or something like that. The cool thing about this is you took a childhood game, and you brought the community into it, and that's what this is all about. It's about community, turning your podcast into a community. You guys got it through this, and other podcasters can get it through however they do it. So
I like the symbolism too. This the symbolism because then the community has a little bit of a say in the fortune because they really do.
All right. Well, there you go. Thank you guys very much for your time. We went a little bit long, but there's a lot of great gems that came out of this. So check it out, downtownpodcast.tv. Of course, check out geekazine.com at geekazine.com and youtube.com/Geekazine.